Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling, and I'm your host. There's a lot of talk about foreign interference in Canada, and before I get into this committee meeting, I just want you to understand that there's no way in the world the Liberal government is ever going to admit that who it is that they know has colluded with foreign governments in an effort to get elected to Parliament. I mean, just think about what I just said there. They colluded with a foreign government to get elected into our government. And then ask yourself if that doesn't sound exactly like the definition of treason. I mean, this isn't just, oh, you shouldn't have done it. This is selling out the country. This is an absolute traitor to the nation. And if you think that the Liberal government won't give you the names about people who stole millions of dollars, they're not going to give you the names to people who colluded with foreign governments. The one fellow from Spadina there who had to run, who now sits as an independent, there was some shade cast on it, and the Liberal Party kicked him right out. Now it turns out that it's happening all up and down the country, and you can be sure that it's happening from any of a number of countries, dozens of countries. There is always going to be somebody that wants to have an influence. And so as a culture, we have to decide where our lines are and what we're going to do about that. However, before I get into it, I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with all of your friends, all of your socials. So we're at committee, and Garrett Jennis, MP Jennis, has some questions for a couple of individuals, and I think that it's important as a Canadian that we hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Chair. This is a really strong panel with people with diverse experience, so I'm sorry to those I don't get to with questions. So many interesting things and important things were said. Mr. Soleimani, thank you for highlighting the need to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization, to use our existing laws to combat foreign interference. And I completely agree with you as the proposer of two of those non-binding motions in Parliament. Non-binding motions are not enough. We want to see executive action listing the IRGC as a terrorist organization. As opposition members, we use the tools we have to try to highlight the issue, of course, but the goal of that is to push the government to act. The government has sadly voted, while voting in favor of both of those motions, they have sadly still not acted. Conservatives have also tabled Bill C-350, which would list the IRGC as a terrorist organization. We've tried to expedite that bill, and Liberals have blocked those efforts. Mr. Soleimani, I was particularly struck by something you revealed in your testimony, that law enforcement in Canada, if I heard right, that law enforcement in Canada are asking activists in the Iranian community to keep a low profile, essentially encouraging them not to speak out about important issues, not to be doing their important work of highlighting human rights issues in Iran for fear of their safety here in Canada. Could you clarify if I understood that right, and speak to who is delivering these messages and who is receiving them?
So thank you so much, Garnet. So it was my personal experience and some other active member of Iranian Canadian communities. It was in the middle of Women Life Freedom Revolution that I was contacted by a person from security services, and he clearly mentioned to me maybe the best way to avoid attraction from the Iranian regime be low profile. So where is the freedom of speech? Here in Canada, we should be afraid of the Iranian regime. This is exactly what the Iranian regime wants. Many Iranian Canadians do not feel safe in Canada. Why? Because agents and supporters of the Iranian regime are here, and obviously they identify and report active member of Iranian Canadians community to Iranian regime, and then Iranian regime contact their families inside Iran. So it's so clear that the Iranian regime agents are here among us, and it's a national security threat. We don't feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. But moreover, of course, people don't feel safe if the message that they're getting from law enforcement, instead of exercise your rights and we'll have your back, is don't exercise your rights, be quiet, and that's the only way you'll be protected. That is shocking and horrifying to me. If If I was told as a member of parliament by security services that I should be quiet about certain issues and keep a low profile for my own safety, that would clearly be unacceptable. And members of the public, citizens, activists, regardless of their background, must be free to exercise their charter guaranteed rights and know that they will be protected in doing so. Could you clarify specifically which security agency has delivered that message?
CSIS.
Okay. Okay, that's very troubling, and I think that's something we'll need to follow up on. Very quickly for Mr. Fung, I think you had mentioned in your opening statement media outlets that are here that are foreign state controlled. There's a private members bill C-281 from my colleague Philip Lawrence that would seek to limit the ability of foreign state-controlled media to get broadcasting licenses in certain kinds of situations where those are hostile authoritarian states. What would your view be on such provisions? Should we consider restricting broadcasting licenses from entities that are controlled by hostile foreign states?
Yes, definitely, we should control that. And currently, basically, the Chinese government is buying the airtime from some popular Chinese radio stations in Vancouver and Toronto areas to broadcast their propaganda. So, and of course, another channel that we should consider is the social media, right? Like the WeChat, TikTok, those are even or have creating more problem in terms of propaganda from foreign governments.
Okay, so there you have two different people from two different countries talking about the same problem, how the governments are in Canada influencing them and threatening their families if they don't do what they're told. Now, in the case of Iran, that is a theocracy. That is a country that is run by the clergy. So when women, as an example, you have a woman in Iran, or excuse me, in Canada who's from Iran, and she wants to go about her day without having her hair covered, they absolutely will report that back to her family in Iran. And they will tell the family in Iran that there will be problems. And then they'll confront the woman and they'll tell her that there'll be problems. I mean, that's just shameful. If you have to run it, why leave? And they know you've left the country, right? Because they're checking your passport. So they know who, what, when, where. But what they also know is that Canada is not doing anything about it. That we as a country are letting them run around. I mean, I can't count how many times I heard the Liberals stump under the name of Putin, and yet the rest of the Chinese, the Iranians, and any of a few dozen other countries that are actively trying to influence the population, that are actively putting their fear and threats into the population. Imagine being born to one of these, so let's say you're an Iranian woman and you were born in Canada, but you're still being threatened by the IRGC. This is unacceptable. This is not how we as a country need to be operating. And it's time that we as a nation decided that enough is enough is enough. It's no, I don't care what country, what government you're from. I need to know that when people are coming to this country, they feel safe. If I have to hear the Minister Freeland talk about how bad Mr. Putin is because he might have run a Facebook ad, and yet you have people actively that are members of foreign states putting broadcasts out on the radio station, putting threats to people's families. I mean, that is much more, or easily as bad as what you might hear from the Russian threat. And if we limit the amount of American broadcasting, then why are we not limiting the amount of other countries broadcasting? Because it's in a different language? Well, it's time to understand that Canada is a fabric of many languages. And there should be nowhere in this country that people who come here and threaten people are safe. Whether they be threatening you for whistleblowing, or whether they be threatening you because you didn't cover your hair, or any of 100 million other reasons, I don't care. They need to know that when they come here and they threaten a Canadian, there are consequences. That's just my opinion. You can leave me your opinion down in the comments. I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with your socials. I'll talk to you next time.